Ladies and gentlemen, welcome yet again to another episode of Dinner Guide. My name is Chef Andy and I'll be your host. And today we are going to be bringing some beautiful essence to this dish. We're going to be bringing a Chicken Kiev to the table today, and we're going to be spicing that up with a bit of noodles on the side. And I'm just going to show you how we're going to finish that off. So without further ado, let me start by introducing what we'll be working with today. So from the front, I've got a bit of soy sauce there. I've got one cracked egg, a bit of butter, and a bit of sea salt and paprika powder. I also got some regular iodized salt, some garlic cloves there. I've also got some breadcrumbs, a bit of parsley and coriander, a bit of all-purpose flour, just regular all-purpose flour, some mushrooms, a bit of lemon there, some beautiful olive oil, one chicken breast, and one packet of just regular noodles. So without further ado, we are going to jump into a short commercial break. Please grab your pens and papers if you're taking notes, and when we come back, we're going to go straight into the dish. So see you in a short while. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We took a short commercial break and now we're back. Just about to show you how to bring a beautiful classic dish to your table this evening. I'm going to be showing you a Chicken Kiev. So without further ado, we're just going to jump into it. Very, very important chicken breast particularly. I'm using chicken breast because it's a little easier to work with, and it is a little also easier to actually fill in. So without further ado, we're going to first of all start with making our filling. So for that, we're going to need a bit of butter. And then I'm also going to be using a bit of some parsley and some coriander. So we're going to quickly chop this up and just mix all that into a bowl. So I'm just going to go with a small bunch of some fresh parsley. And I'm just going to break the stalks off. And all you're looking for is the parsley heads themselves. So just a rough chop. So particularly a very, very classic dish, but we're going to be bringing a bit of a twist to it. An original Chicken Kiev would only have a bit of parsley, it should only have a bit of butter, and you'd basically be stuffing this. But now, because we're basically doing it on live TV, I'm going to be able to show you exactly how it's done. So just going to finish chopping those up. So just quick rough chop. And that goes into the bowl as well. And then you can also add your butter in there. We're also going to add about 2 pinches of salt. Remember, I'm using unsalted butter, particularly for this recipe. And all we are going to do with that is just break it up with a wooden spoon. So basically all we are looking for is a bit of a herb butter, which is basically what we are going to be stuffing into our chicken. And then we're just basically going to coat that and crumb it. And that is going to go straight onto a nice hot pan. So definitely important that you have a nice hot pan with oil going. I'm also going to be having a pot on the side there that's also going. That's just water, which we're basically going to be cooking our noodles in, or rather blanching them. Right, so once you definitely have your beautiful consistent mixture, it should be able to hold, it should actually be able to hold shape. So very simply, all I'm going to do now is transfer this into the fridge, and I'm just going to allow it to set for a little while. So remember, this was just soft butter. This was softened butter. But for the reason that it's been sitting out of the room for a little bit, just to give it a bit of its consistency and just to really get it to hold shape as well, just to be able to actually stuff it into the breast, we're going to throw this quickly in the fridge and we're going to grab it in a little while. So I would probably just chill my mixture for about 4 to 5 minutes, just to give it a bit of time for the herbs to just infuse with the butter. And then we're going to take it out and I'll show you what we'll do next. So now we have a nice beautiful pot there. I'm just going to turn that up a little bit and we're going to give that a few seconds. In the meantime, we're going to do something interesting. We're going to make a nice beautiful mushroom ragu, very, very simple one that we're going to be serving with our chicken Kiev. So I'm just going to start by slicing a bit of that mushroom. So I'm using regular white button mushrooms. This you can be able to buy at your regular outlets out there, your regular retail shops, or your grocers for that matter. So I'm going to be using about 3/4 cup of mushroom, and I'm just going to chop that into the big chunks, as you can see. So just a rough quick chop. Remember, you're gonna be serving this with your chicken. You're just looking for a bit of texture to it. So I would preferably serve this chunky, but you can actually run it through a blender if you have one, or a food processor, and you can actually try and also change its consistency. Okay, so we have our mushrooms now good to go, and our water is nicely bubbling on the side there. Right, so we're just gonna leave it at that. So now to this pot, I'm just quickly going to throw my noodles in there. So I'm using about a packet, so it's about 300 grams. And all I'm going to do now is just use my tongs just to try and spread that up and break it apart. And all we are going to do is give that just a few seconds until you can actually be able to pull the noodles up with your pair of tongs or even a pair of fork. And as soon as you just have it just splitting up, we're just going to take that out and we're going to quickly rinse it and cool it off. So very, very quick technique of cooking your noodles. I like to cook it this way because it particularly gives it a nicer, fresher look. So it actually gives it quite a bit of a difference when you actually just blanch it really quickly in hot water and rinse it out. It actually maintains a very, very beautiful color. And remember, this being noodles, I didn't add any oil to the water, so it's just plain water. And for the reason for that is we're basically going to be cooling that off. We're going to be serving it a little later, and this is just going to be an accompaniment. So all you want to do is actually just have something really, really light to go with your chicken Kiev. Right, so that's about done. So I'm just going to turn off my heat. And as I said, very, very simple. You should actually be able to just hold your noodles right on top of your pot, and it should actually be able to hold. So all we are going to do with those is just pour them out on the side here. So I'm just going to pour that into a sieve. And all I'm going to do is quickly rinse that under the pot, under cold running water. So remember, this particularly helps you to cook your noodles, or to cool your noodles a little faster and stops them from overcooking. Right, so simple as that. All I'm going to do is leave that in the bowl here, and we're just gonna give that a few seconds to just rinse out. And then to the pan here, I'm just quickly gonna reheat that. And what we're going to do on that side, we're basically just going to fry up our mushrooms. So I'm going to be incorporating just a bit of light soy sauce. I've also got some paprika and some sea salt, which I'm going to be using to fry my mushrooms in. And to that, we're also going to be incorporating a bit of lemon zest. And lemon zest basically would be just the beautiful skin on the lemon. It just actually just gives an accent to your sauce, and it actually just allows you to really bring the flavors up once you're done frying. So just gonna quickly move those onto a hot pan. Then all I'm going to add is about 2 teaspoons of soy sauce. So this is just light soy sauce. What we are going to do is toss those in there. I'm just going to give that a few seconds to fry. To that, I'm just going to add a generous drizzle of olive oil. So this is just basically for the flavor. So just a quick tip when doing your mushrooms. Always try and cut them closest to time because they do change color. So it's very crucial that you cut them just before you fry them. Right, so simple as that. So now to that we're going to add just a bit of salt, about 2 pinches of salt. Then I'm also going to be adding about 2 cloves of garlic, but I'm not going to chop them up, so I'm just gonna smash them with the side of my knife. I'm just gonna throw them in there. So you wanna cook this at high heat for about 3 to 4 minutes, just till you actually start to get that beautiful aroma from the garlic and from the olive oil and from the mushroom. So it really it's about just to infuse it. And all we're gonna do now is turn off the heat, and we're gonna transfer that onto a plate. We're gonna allow this to cool off. Right, so very simple technique of frying. So all we're going to do is we're going to give this a few seconds to just cool off on the side there. And now we're going to take out our butter. So this should actually be nice and chilled at the moment. So this should be okay to go. Now, last but not least, a bit of that lemon zest. So I'm just going to use my grater on the side here. And I'm just going to use the zesting side of my zester. And all you want is just a bit of that beautiful yellow skin of the lemon. It actually just accentuates your sauce, and it is actually going to give it a bit of a flavor boost. So very simple technique of playing around with a lemon if you have some. But if you don't actually have a lemon for this recipe, don't panic, you can actually work without it. Right, so I'm just going to scrap a bit of that zest from the back of the peel of the grater. All we're going to do is just add that zest onto the mushrooms. We're just gonna give that a few minutes to cool off. And next we're basically now going to be assembling the chicken. So I'm just going to show you how to do that here. So very simply, as I said, I'm going to be working with a simple chicken breast. And for this purpose, actually, I'm very particular that you actually tenderize your chicken. So I like to just use a board that I have next to me. And all I do is just press it right on the top and then just pat it with the inner side of my hand. Then I'm just going to turn it around and I'm just going to repeat the process. Right, so simple as that, very easy. And then all we're going to do now is we're basically going to cut right through the breast. So I'm just going to go about halfway in, and I'm just going to use the pointed side of my knife. And basically what we're trying to do is open a little pocket on your chicken breast. Remember, this is basically where your filling is going to be going in. We're just going to trim off that bit of that excess, and then just cut right through to the end like that. Right, so I'm just going to trim off the excess on the sides there. We've got a bit of fat, so be sure to take that bit of excess off and you can just discard that. So very simply, I'm just going to take my butter. And as you can see, it should actually be able to hold really well on your hands. So all I'm going to do is just press that against my hand and give it a bit of a shape. And all we're going to do is drop that in there. And then roll that. Right, simple as that. And now basically the next step will basically now be to coat this. So I'm just going to show you how to do that. So very, very important, you'll need about 2 or 3 plates for that purpose. So remember, you're going to be, the reason why you're going to need about 3 plates is, remember, you're going to be going through the egg mixture, you're going to go through your breadcrumbs and your flour, so you definitely need about 3 plates for that purpose. So very, very simply, we're gonna just dust a bit of flour onto a plate. Now to one of the plates, I'm just going to add that egg. And to the other, we're going to add our breadcrumbs. So to that, I'm just going to add a pinch of salt onto the breadcrumbs and give it a mix. So this is just to give it a bit of flavor. And all we're going to do now is just put the dish together. So I'm just going to grab the chicken and I'm just going to roll it right around the flour just to give it a bit of a coat. And be sure to go around about 3 or 4 times. That should give you quite a nice bit of layering of the flour. So simple as that. And then basically into your egg mixture. And as you notice, I didn't crack my egg yolk. Remember, I'm not trying to give it any color, so I'm just going to use the egg white for that purpose. Last but not least, into your breadcrumbs. And all you're going to do is sprinkle a bit of that around. And of course, as I said, roll it around a few times just to make sure you've got a nice even coating of your breadcrumbs. And if you think it's a little too thin, like I would notice with this particular coating, I always like to also just go back into the mixture. Roll it again into the egg. Remember, it actually just helps you to actually hold the chicken breast together when it cooks. So very, very particular that you get your crumbing right. Right, so just a bit more of that egg. And back into our breadcrumbs. And just roll that around. And just try and get a nice, beautiful, dry finish. So simple as that. So what I would like to also like to emphasize is, remember, you always have that open side once you actually roll your breast around. So very, very particular that you actually pay attention to that particular end. And now all we're going to do is just reconstitute all that, and I'm just going to show you how to do that. Right, so very, very simply, I like to use some cling film. Actually helps you to really be able to just get a bit of shape onto your chicken breast. So I'm just going to spread that over my chopping board. And remember, as I mentioned, you do have that open flap that you actually manage to just cover your chicken with. So what happens is, always turn that and make sure that is actually to the bottom side of the board, because remember, that is exactly what you're trying to do. You're trying to give it shape and you're trying to really strengthen it while you roll it. So very, very particular that you have that side at the bottom. And all we do now is just roll that around. And then we're going to cut. So remember, for this particular stage, all you're looking for is that little bit of shape before you actually throw it in the oil. But particularly, there's a small tip I will share as well. I like to throw this in the freezer for just a few minutes. It actually allows it to just hold shape and it doesn't actually freeze it too long. So basically, I like to throw it in there, give it a few minutes, and then when it comes out, it goes straight into a pan with hot oil. And then you're basically just gonna cook that till it's nice and golden brown. and this should be actually just ready to serve immediately after. So I'm going to be throwing this in the freezer, and I'm gonna pull out another piece that we made earlier, and we're gonna first of all clean this mess, and then we're gonna take a short break, and when we come back I'm going to show you how to combine those mushrooms and the noodles and the chicken in a very, very simple technique to serve your chicken kiev. So see you after a short while. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We took a short commercial break, and I was actually just chilling out a piece of chicken breast that I had in the fridge. But as I mentioned before we went on the break, I'm going to show you one that we actually set in the fridge a little earlier. And now we're just going to take it out and go straight into the cooking. So as I said, very particularly, this is a very simple technique to just give your breast or rather give your marinated breast a bit of time to actually reconstitute in the fridge. And as you can see, it actually comes out looking a little easier now to cook, and this could actually go into your hot oil as easy as that. So we're just going to turn that on. Now oil is nice and hot. So very, very simple. Once this comes out, all you're going to do now is just roll it out like that. And I always insist, be very careful at that stage because you don't really want to ruin it before it goes into the oil. And I particularly like to just hold it against one side of the cling film and roll it once more just to try and capture all that extra breadcrumbs that's sitting on the bottom there. And now this goes straight into your pot of oil. And as I said, remember, always the flap side always goes down. This just allows you to make sure that it doesn't open up while it's actually frying. So we're just going to drop that slowly. And all we're going to do is be cooking this for about 6 to 7 minutes. Remember, you're basically just cooking it and giving it a bit of color. And at this stage, you also want to be very close to your pot because it cooks really quickly and your oil is very hot as well. Right, so now this is now starting to color really, really well. We're just going to turn off the heat because our oil is still hot. All we're going to do now is so basically we're going to take it out and we're going to finish it off really quickly in the microwave. Remember, the inside cooks really, really quickly. Remember, it's a very, very thin cut of breast, as I said, in this particular why we actually pat it down so that we actually get a very, very thin texture to it. So this cooks really, really quickly, as I mentioned. So basically that could go into your hot oven and cook really slowly, or you can just throw it really quickly in the microwave and it will actually cook right through. So we're going to leave that out to cool a little bit, and then we're going to reheat it just to give it a bit of time to drip off the excess oil. And on this side, I'm just going to show you what we're going to be doing with the noodles. So remember, for those who are just catching up, we had this beautiful fried mushrooms that we did a little earlier. So very particularly, always first take out those chunks of garlic. So we're just going to set those aside. And now in here, remember, this was just some fried mushroom with some soy sauce and some salt. We also added in a bit of lemon zest. So that's just to give it a bit of a flavor. And now all I'm going to do is add my noodles into this big bowl as well. And last but not least, a bit of olive oil. So olive oil is particularly a very good option to go with, especially for dressing your pasta, for two reasons: that it's actually healthy for you and it is actually very strong with flavors, and it actually infuses quite a bit of flavor to a dish. So I'm just going to use the spoons, and I'm just going to toss that together in the bowl. So remember, the idea is to just be able to actually just get your olive oil to coat your noodles really well. You can actually also use your spoon to try and break the noodles up, because remember, this was actually cooked and we rinsed it, so it's a bit cold. All you're looking for is just a nice, generous coating of that olive oil. We're gonna add just a little bit. So I've only gone in with about 3/4 tablespoon. Right, and that's now mixed up really well. Always try and make sure also to try and break your pasta apart before you actually conclude the mixing. Remember, it is very crucial that you get the oil to really coat it well, because you don't also want too much of that olive oil on one side of your plate. Right, so our noodles are done. All I'm going to do is transfer this onto a plate. So very simple technique of garnishing your plate. So all I did was take a nice dollop of mayonnaise, about a teaspoon. I just spread it onto the plate and I just spread it out. So as you can see, it actually gives you a bit of an appearance. It gives you a bit of a niche. It actually shows a bit of creativity even when you actually serve your dish to your guests. So very simply, I'm going to transfer the noodles onto plate. So I'm just going to try and grab a bit of that excess noodle, and we're just going to set that aside. Right, so simply you can actually just leave that aside and you can have it as it is. But I'm actually also going to plate the dish onto a plate and show you just one very simple technique of plating your chicken Kiev. So very simply, I'm just going to transfer some of that noodle onto the plate. Grab maybe a bit of that mushroom as well. So very colorful, very simple. You can actually be able to get that beautiful aroma from the mushroom and the zest. And this should actually be a very good accompaniment to your Kiev. So simple as that. Just going to quickly clean our table. Alright, very simple. I'm just going to quickly now reheat that in the microwave. So I'm just going to throw it in here, and we're just going to just finish that off for about a minute, and that should give it enough time to actually cook right through. And then as for the garlic as well, I actually particularly like to serve some beautiful roasted garlic with this dish. So I normally, that is why I mentioned earlier, I'm actually not going to cut the garlic. I'm just going to serve them as they are. And we're just going to leave those on the side of the plate. And now just a few more seconds for the Kiev. And then also something also particular with the Kiev, as I said, most of the dishes we do on the show are for demonstration purposes. You are also, you're actually very open to try out a different sauce with your Kiev. You can actually try out any sauce that really works for you. So you can actually try as many options as you like. Remember, the preferences with sauces, and especially how you serve your dish, is always about you and how you actually prefer to serve it to your family at home. So now our chicken's done. Just going to take that out. As you can see, it's actually now just dripping with a bit of butter, so we know this is actually cooked right through. So all I'm going to do is grab a knife, and we're just going to cut that open, and you can all be able to see what it looks like when it's finally done. Right. So nice and beautiful, very colorful. Just going to move that onto the plate. And ladies and gentlemen, very simple chicken Kiev. And now I'm very certain that most of you will actually be able to try this on your own at home. As I said, very many options to plating this particular dish, so you're not limited to the techniques we have used on this particular one today. And I would say that would probably be as much as I would actually give you info on the dish. So from my end, it has been a pleasure being with you. My name is Chef Andy and I have been your host today. You have been watching BrandPlus TV, and also another reminder to the viewers at home, do also check out our Facebook page, plenty of stuff to see. Also check out our links, check out our videos, leave your comments or inquiries, anything you may actually want to contribute to the show. We're always very open and looking forward to hearing from you back at home. So from my end, it has been an honor. Until the next episode, have a lovely evening.